Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, is my good friend, Drew Crawley. Drew,
Hey,
how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, doing good. As the time of we're recording this, I just came off the marathon of Christmas shopping and back-to-back nights of playing until about 2:33 a.m. Bar gigs this weekend. So it's been
Yeah,
a busy one, but it's good. It's good.
yeah.
Yourself?
I'm doing well. And hey, while we're talking you and your music,
Yes.
tell the people about this.
Yes. So my producer Lorenzo and I were looking at kind of our rollout plans for this next record. One of the things we wanted to do is do some smaller drops of just little special things that we work on when we're practicing or when we're putting something together. So we dropped a little 3-track EP on Friday morning called Apartment Sessions. It's acoustic versions of songs that already are kind of out there existing. We played with some arrangements and some tunings just to make it sound special. So that is now available wherever you listen to music.
Yeah, it's very good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So we've got with us today a familiar friend to many of you, Mr. Jason Brauner, and we're going to talk with him about Buzzard's Roost. They're killing it. They're killing it at Buzzard's Roost. It is so fun to see the success that Jason and his team are having with that. So we're going to dig into that with him. We'll talk a little bit about Bourbons Bistro, the best restaurant in Louisville, bar none. And part of the tasting that we're going to do is they just came out with Cigar Rye Batch 2, okay? And so that means there had to be a Cigar Rye Batch 1, which, if you've been listening to the show, you know that when Drew and I were putting together our 5 nominees for Whiskey of the Year, there were 2 that made both lists, and one of those that made both lists was Cigar Rye. So, award nominated Cigar Rye, and then we're going to have a really fun conversation talking about the best frontmen or women in rock music. So we'll get into all that in just a few minutes. But first, we have this message for you.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times. So then that way it stays as a like.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike is also, in addition to being the unofficial spokesperson of Bourbon Turntable, Mike is with us on the Bar Cart Co-op. And Bar Cart Co-op it's a collection of friends. We all have different shows. We support one another in what we're doing. And I think we all together, we bring a pretty diverse level of content to people that are in the whiskey world or enjoy bourbon. Mike and Pat are on My Whiskey Den. That airs Monday nights, 9:00 Eastern time. And that is the show where craft whiskey is king. Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They do deep dives with distillers from across the country and around the world. And they really get into the deep geekery of distillation. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute is another program of Alan Bishop's, where he'll take questions from viewers, and they'll email him questions, and then he'll do videos giving them responses about questions you're usually are about distillation, maturation, and again, it gets into the really geeky side of the industry. So with all that being said, Jason, welcome to Bourbon Turntable again.
Thanks for having me, Drew.
Welcome
good
back.
to see you. Kevin, good to see you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this show for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Frontman is always a good, cool place to talk about.
Well, if I was thinking about, okay, I knew what we wanted. We needed to do a show on this, and I thought, okay, who is somebody that I would think this person if they were in a rock and roll band, they would be the front man, and Jason Brauner was the only person that could come to mind.
I don't know. Isn't Pat Heist in here? Is he the front man of their band?
But see, he's in a band though, so he's qualified.
Well, little did you know that I was in a band.
Yes, I remember that now. I remember that. I think the last time you were on, which you were our first guest, show 1 of 2022, and this will be first show 2023. So,
hopefully kicking the year off okay, at least.
Yeah, you're starting it off in style. You're the front man. All right.
This is a much better New Year's tradition than Ryan Seacrest. So I'm really happy with our version of New Year's traditions.
I'll take it. I'll take it for sure.
So Buzzard's Roost celebrated its 3rd anniversary this past summer,
July,
right? In July.
Yeah.
And I if I remember correctly, you had you started with 3 barrels. Is that right?
We did. Back in 2019, we started with 3 barrels. We had a single barrel, and we had a very small batch.
Yes. Yes. And now I believe you have 10 or 11 different brands under the Buzzard Roost umbrella.
Yeah, we've come out with several different offerings, which we're trying to kind of narrow that down a little bit and make some will be seasonal, or what we call LTOs, will be coming out different points in the year. So what we're going to do, I think we've kind of got it narrowed down to 3 of our ryes and 3 of our bourbons. Will be kind of the main core group. We'll do the Char 1 bourbon and rye. We'll do the toasted American oak. It'll be rye and bourbon, and then we'll do a barrel strength rye and bourbon. Other than that, revolving about every quarter, we'll put out a little something different. For example, this quarter was the 2nd iteration of the cigar rye.
Right.
We've got our French oak, our French toasted oak that we've done. We have our peated, which is actually going to be changed. That the next run of that will be called smoked.
Yeah.
Because bourbon and whiskey some people keep peated at arm's length. So we're going to still smoke it with peat, but we're just not going to tell them until they read the back of the bottle.
Right.
Because a lot of people, once you force them to drink it, they actually love it, but sans the name. So we threw out peat, and we're calling this one the smoked barrel, and it'll come around, like I said, probably in the spring, but we call them seasonal. They're not limited by any means. We put them out seasonally, and they do go away at some point, but then they come back. So
I like that. I like that.
We try not to say something is limited or whatever you want to call it, allocated, because nobody. That's a bad word.
Yeah, there's enough of that crap going around already.
Yeah. The hell with it.
You don't want fake scarcity of it. But you're putting it out in enough supply that
yeah, we think so. Everybody gets a little bit for that season, and then it'll come back around. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start sipping on this batch 1 while we keep talking here.
I don't.
You don't have.
I don't have.
I thought, we know, and I would have brought you some. So you go ahead and start on.
I do have batch 2, though. I do have batch 2.
Well, you can go ahead and get on that one if you want to, and then we'll catch up. How about that?
And I rarely get these glasses out, and I shouldn't really be cross promoting. People would probably hate me, but I love this cup.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It reminds me of like my great aunt and uncles. You put a couple rocks in there, about 3 fingers of whiskey and a little bit of Canada Dry or something.
Yeah.
But I love the Old Crow.
Yep. We need to do an episode about biggest missed opportunities in bourbon, because that label is so historic and nobody's doing anything of quality with it.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Right.
that I don't know that anybody will. Who knows? Who knows?
That's all right. That's a conversation for another time.
Yes, yeah. We can get pretty far down that rabbit trail pretty quickly. So tell us about.
Yeah, they need to do
What's that?
anyway, they need to do a single barrel program and see
Yes, they
how
do.
it blows up. See if it might work. You never know.
You could name your price, but they kind of already do with everything else. So,
Right.
Cigar rye. What was the motivation to do a cigar rye, and talk to us about the process that went into making it?
Well, it was it kind of grew as a sister product to the peated. Now the peated we smoked we cold smoked the barrel with some peat that we actually flew in from Scotland and Highland peat. So so it came up with a little kind of Scotch finish. So we thought more about it, and it's like, what, Kentucky's known for tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Bourbon and rye already have some tobacco-y notes to them. So why don't we give this a shot and smoke the barrel just like we did with the peat? We'll smoke the barrel with some Kentucky tobacco. And it's actually cold smoked. So the smoke is induced into the barrel. There's no heat really involved other direct heat. We heat it over here and pump it into the barrel. And actually, we smoked these barrels a little bit longer than we did the first batch. So I don't know if you'd be able to pick that up, Kevin, but we tried to give it a little bit of a deeper smoke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of sips of batch one. And there is a really nice smokiness there. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, I've sat on the deck during warmer weather with this and some Allman Brothers playing, and it works really well. It makes for a very nice evening.
I was gonna say, couldn't go wrong with that one.
No, but the smokiness is there, and some nuttiness too. I think like a toasted pecan or roasted pecan kind of.
Yeah, and so our it's one of our normal barrels that you're going to get that heavily toasted barrel, and then the number one char, and then we smoke it.
Right.
So it still goes through all that process that our normal stuff does, where I call it kind of a bourbon drinker's rye. So it's a 95.5. It tastes like a bourbon, and it finishes kind of smoky and just a little bit different.
The smoke is so apparent, but one of the things I love about all your products is there's this really nice kind of like a toasted almond sweetness under. I think that's kind of a signature flavor note that I pick up in a lot of y'all's products, and I really like the sweeter finish, especially on the batch one. The batch two, which we'll talk about in a minute, I don't detect quite as much. It's a little bit more complex and rich, but this one still has that nice sweet finish that I enjoy in all of y'all's expressions.
Yeah, and I think that comes from the toast profile that we do for these barrels.
Yeah.
And you guys worked with Independent Stave Company to develop the staves and the barrels and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but I actually went down there and smoked these.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
It's that, what was that shake and bake pork chop commercial? And I helped.
Yeah. Shake and bake, and I helped.
Yeah, yes. And I helped. So I was down there.
I think you're showing our age with that reference, Jason.
Well, I think with some of the, the music and the commercials, and it's just the time, and hell, I guess I'm not ashamed of it,
So batch one versus batch two, Drew, you've made a couple of comments there, but kind of sum up what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So, batch one really has the smoky component, and it has the little bit of a sweetness to it. I really have enjoyed this one with a darker wrapped cigar, and as well as some smoked meat. So I did this one with some ribs when I first got a bottle, and I really, really liked it just because it plays so well together, especially on like a Texas style, rather a Kansas City style kind of barbecue where it's a little bit more sweet. As far as batch 2 goes, there is a greater depth of complexity. And I mean that is no slight on batch 1, but there's so much of a richer kind of thing going on here. I get a ton of the tobacco leaf on the nose, a little bit of the honey, and then the sweet is less confectionery and more kind of baking, if that makes any sense. It's not, powdered sugar or, the caramel vanilla. It's more like pastry sweet. But the smokiness and the complexity of this is just phenomenal. And this one I like with a lighter wrap cigar. So something, with the Connecticut wrapper. I think the Oliva G series goes really well with this. I know, Kevin, you're not a huge cigar guy. I know, Jason, you enjoy them from time to time, but this one just pairs really lovely with those as well. So that's the quickest summation I have. Otherwise, I could sit here and geek out and write a love letter to both for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I think that there is definitely a greater intensity of the smoke in batch 2 than batch 1. But I think the sweet, I agree with what you're saying, Drew. I think the sweet on batch 1 comes across more like a vanilla sweet. Mm-hmm. And on batch 2, I think it's more of a honey sweet.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But it's a nice balance to have that sweetness with the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We've talked about playing with different toasts on that one as well. We have 15 different barrels that we can put to this use. And then, when you start varying the tobacco that we're putting in, it could be, it's all kind of, a work in progress, but I feel that we're making some good headway with it.
Yeah.
Now, mash bill is the same. Aging is a similar process. Were there other variables in the production as far as stays or as far as tobacco between batch 1 and 2? Or is it just a difference in the blend profile that you came up with?
Yeah, I mean, it's still it's there. Our MGP 95.5. Mm-hmm. We that's our go-to, and we're blending that, and then we're putting it in our barrels. And like I said, we smoke the barrel before we introduce the whiskey to it. So we'll smoke it for a certain amount of time, put the bung on, send it to the distillery, and they'll rebarrel it. And that smoke just kind of sits in there and concentrates, dissipates. And, at the end of the day, that's kind of the product we're getting.
Yeah. Sure.
I said there's different barrels that we can play with. We have 15 different proprietary barrels. So, but we're so far, the smoke plays well with the barrels we're using.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, a lot of these parts are interchangeable, and, we can plug and play.
Right.
My dog even wants some of it.
Smart dog.
Good tasting whiskey. Yeah. It's awesome. Really love this one, Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're excited about it, and it's getting, great reviews and also good for our retail partners and everybody. It's flying off the shelves. So it's moving for them, and it's not sitting there, and we're happy with it. They're happy with it. So, on we go. We onward up. We're just trying to put some good juice in people's hands.
Yeah,
absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know, you stay pretty hands-on in all your businesses endeavors, but I really appreciate the price point and the availability of these expressions, especially with the local retailers. I've spent some time at the Wine Rack over on Frankfurt Avenue and at Frankfurt Avenue Liquors, both of which, are on the same street with you guys, and they have them available all the time at a very reasonable price point, especially when you put it up against the price point of similar things, on the sourced market or that are blended or whatever. And you guys coming in, under $80 for just about everything is just incredible. And I think that shows that your love for the whiskey community, and especially the whiskey community here in Louisville and in your backyard. So really appreciate and respect that.
Yeah, and we've tried to keep it reasonable. It is an expensive process what we do, but taking the time that me driving to Lebanon every, when we do this. I mean, it's quite a process. I mean,
Sure.
But at the end of the day, when you could sit down and sip it, that it doesn't matter how long I put into it, because it's worth every minute to me. It's worth every minute of it. So
absolutely.
And if anybody feel, can do the same, that's as cool. And then especially when I get notes and Kevin or anybody text me and said, man, I'm just having or I'll see something on Instagram, sitting by the fire, just having a sip of cigar or whatever, any of my products, it makes you feel good. So all that time that you put in, it just kind of goes away.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing, at least my personal experience, has been the Buzzard's Roost expressions, whether I'm going back, a couple of years with some of those first barrel strength ryes, or whatever the case may be, or sitting at Bourbon's Bistro at the bar with you and Mike and having a pour or two of it. It's there are a lot of really good memories around the Buzzard's Roost brand for me. And we talked earlier about my whiskey den guys, and first time they ever all three got together was here in Louisville at my house a couple of years ago, and it was middle of April. It was probably 35 degrees, but we're sitting out on my back patio that night drinking Buzzard's Roost barrel strength rye, and wouldn't have traded it for anything. So it's a brand that's very special to us, and I will readily admit that there's bias because of the respect that I have for you and what you've contributed to the industry. But congratulations on the success, man. 3 years and you're to this point, and it looks like the sky's the limit.
Well, we hope so. That's the goal is, I don't know about the sky's the limit, but the goal is just, like I said, put good whiskey in people's hands. And we want to definitely promote roosting. Like, it's all about the story. We're all, no matter what it is, friends getting together, slowing down a little bit. And, it's a busy world out there. Yep. A lot of social media, a lot of this, a lot of that going on. And it's good to sit around and sip some whiskey with some friends or even, new people and hopefully they become friends or friends at the end of the day. But it's always good to sit around and sip whiskey and slow down a little bit. And like I said, just roost a while.
Yeah, roost a while. So where is your distribution now? Because you guys have been adding states at a pretty rapid pace, right?
Yeah, it has been a rapid rate. Thank goodness it's slowing down a little bit. The first of the year will pick up quite a bit for us. But so we are in 10 states right now. We're also in Alberta, Canada. We are available on Bar Cart, which makes us available to reciprocal states. So you can get it mailed to your house in 32 other states.
Okay.
So, we're really ramping up production. By the end of probably the second quarter of next year, we're supposed to be in about 25 states.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, next year there's going to be, it looks like there's a little bit of traveling in my future. So I'm going to go hit a bunch of markets and see what we can do, shake the trees a little bit out there.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked, right?
Yeah, right. Idle time is the devil's workshop.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about the cigar rye. So just to make sure everybody gets a good look at it, that is what that label looks like. And if you couldn't tell from what I was holding up, so that's what you're looking for, people. That's one of them anyway. There's a few of the others. I think I took that picture back in July, right when you guys were having your anniversary deal. And
that's a great picture.
Yeah. So yeah, it's sunny and nice out, so it's not a recent picture. But several different brands there or labels there. So really good stuff. So what's going to happen in 2023? We're here. We just saw the ball drop, and so now we're in 2023. What's in store for Buzzard Roost other than adding states and Jason being on the road a lot?
Yeah, well, hopefully, other than that, I'll be at our tasting room that is supposed to open in March.
Awesome.
We are opening at 624 West Main, right down in the heart of Whiskey Row. We're not too far from Michter's, Peerless, you name it, Evan Williams,
Yeah.
Old Forester. BBC is actually going to put a spot down there real close to us. But hopefully we're going to open this March, and we have a retail space, a bar with tasting room. We're going to have a mini distillery, kind of an experimental distillery, and we'll also have some educational classrooms downstairs. And if it all works out, we're going to have an executive, like a VIP tasting room as well. So
nice.
It's going to be a great little thing. Hopefully we can ever get it open. We've run into our fair share of troubles in building anything in downtown Louisville. It's
yes,
has its whole set of not problems, but issues, I guess.
Yeah, so, idiosyncrasies. Yeah,
exactly. We'll call it that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll call it that.
Right.
Well, that's exciting. March.
Yeah, We're excited
All
about
right.
it. Like I said, then we'll be putting some new make into barrels. All of our toasted barrels and char one barrels. We're going to put actually some new make. We'll be putting new make in barrels down there.
So, what kind of still do you have? Will you have in the tasting room?
It's a 70-gallon doubler that I got from Vendome.
Okay.
And so we're going to be taking some first run and cleaning it up and running it through our still. And then it'll go straight into our barrels, which hopefully will help supplement us down the road there. Be distillery made,
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that for sure. And I can't wait to get to run the still.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully it won't blow up. I don't know.
So now you guys are housing your barrels at Bardstown Bourbon Company, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. How many barrels do you have in resting right now? Any idea?
As of January 1st, it would be a bunch. We just make
more than 3, right?
Yeah, definitely more than 3. We we're making a large purchase there at the end of the year of a bunch of barrels. And awesome. It's hard for me to even get my head around how much, because I know we're planning for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But we're also getting some new make from BBC in 2023 as well.
Okay.
That we'll be putting down, and I think that's going to be a little over. I don't know. But I probably shouldn't say, because I don't know what. But we are getting some new make from BBC in 2023.
Fantastic. Bourbon, rye, both.
It'll be a little bit of both. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
So I want to ask you this, because this is if you want to do a LTO with this, I know that it would be very dear to my heart.
No, I know what you're going to say. I think
you know what I'm going to say. Toasted barrel strength rye.
Barrel strength rye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's always been your baby, and I've fought for you. I know.
It was your fault. Okay, it was your fault.
Yeah, I got to pull a couple of bottles before we actually proofed it down. And I just got shot down by the CEO and the board, and it's like, we're trying to keep a reasonable price. And Jason, if we're going to keep this business going, we have to make a little money somewhere. So that was getting to the point to where. The price point, it'd be much more expensive than $80 or whatever.
Right.
But if I can maybe get ahead of them before the next bottling, before they proof it down, I'll pull us a couple.
Well, that would be great.
And a couple of samples, for
for science.
I'll have to send them to the lab so I can fool with them. Well, which is the coolest thing, working in the BBC lab and doing all the our blending there is just unreal. Yeah. And being able to pull from the different barrels that we have. I remember, the other day we were blending and I said, I really like to blend, but it just doesn't have a finish to it. It doesn't have the finish that I want.
Right.
And so we pulled a couple of other different samples in and we're like, well, put these in and take a little bit of that out. And wow, it was just amazing how it just then it just turned a corner and just had this big finish to it. And I'm like, wow, this is, it's cool. It's really like Willy Wonka kind of fooling around. Throw a gym shoe in there or something, but it works out.
Well, if you ever need a gopher or someone to go get you coffee and hang out on those days, I think you have 2 volunteers.
Yeah.
Well, we can figure something out, Drew. I don't drink coffee, but we can figure something out.
All right, perfect. If you need an official errand boy on the payroll, you got a couple people to call.
I'll eat a lot of those biscuits from the 150 Save-A-Mart down there, the Quick Stop. I think they said they sell like 600 biscuits. Not that they need a commercial or anything,
right?
But I'll be your Huckleberry. I love those things.
Oh yeah.
Every time I'm in Bardstown, I'm at the 150 eating a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit.
Yeah.
So we could definitely send you for some of those.
Outstanding.
So we've got the tasting room opening up. You're getting to a more focused brand offerings this year with the 3 ryes and the 3 bourbons, and then the limited time offerings coming out throughout the year. You're going to start getting some distillate directly from Bardstown Bourbon Company, expanding to up to 25 states. These are incredible
online
things.
sales. That's big too, because that's 32 states, and that's right now.
Yeah.
So that's right now. So that's big. So we're kind of holding our seats, waiting to see. I say 25 states, but hopefully we'll be able to supply the 32 online and then the 10, 15 more that we're going to add. So it's quite the chess game.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible story. It really is. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's been a whiskey boom, but you started this right as the pandemic was getting going, right? So this was
did we know,
right? So you had your 3 barrels and your 2 labels that you started with, and then a few months later, you're having to navigate that with starting this brand, as well as navigating that with Bourbons Bistro.
I can only think of one time that was a little bit more difficult in my life, but we probably shouldn't talk about that.
Well, the thing is I know some of the things that you did to take care of your people during that time, and it just shows good things do happen to good people. And so congratulations on the success of everything with Buzzard's Roost, and
it is much appreciative. Yeah. If I was any better, I'd be you.
Well, I don't know how better that is, but it's good. So anything else in 2023 we need to look for?
Well, I don't know. We're still doing some innovative research.
Mm-hmm.
So, those LTOs that are coming out, it could be something new. I know we've talked about a bunch of different things. I mean, there's a lot of things on the horizon as far as what we're looking at, and not really trends, but just things that we would maybe want to dip into a little bit. And
Have you looked at a different base whiskey, like doing something with a single malt or doing something with a corn whiskey?
Well, we've talked about single malt. There could be a wheated on our horizon. There's also maybe thoughts of American whiskey. The barrel industry is getting squeezed a little bit right now, especially with all the bigger distillers doubling production and looking for thousands and thousands of barrels. So, an American whiskey in a bourbon style or a rye style is not that far out of the question. Our barrels are such slightly used, and they're so special, so specialized. But I don't know that wouldn't be something we might dip our hand into. But we're trying to grow the core brands right now, and we're still doing innovation with other things that we find interesting. But there's a lot of ways we could go, and that we've talked about. I think right now we're just kind of focusing on our core group, and also keeping it fresh with the innovative stuff. But there's all kinds of avenues, I think.
Yeah. And that was kind of led to my next question. The barrels that you use in your secondary aging process. I mean, it's not like they've gone through years and years and years of use. I mean, this whiskey sitting in those barrels for a few weeks to a few months, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are you doing with those barrels now?
Well, now we sent them through one of our partners. It's just really kind of a clearinghouse for them. They sell them off and pay us, for them.
Yeah.
But in the future, I think that they're so specialized that I think an arm of our company, once we get big enough, we'll be able to direct where those go and say where our secondary barrels go because of the reason that they're, fresh barrels and they're not, there's whether it be the tequila industry or the beer industry or what have you. I think that I'd love to be able to work with people on our barrels for a second use.
Yeah.
Because I think there's still a lot of flavor there and a lot of use that you can get out of them. So
I think
we'll kind of see.
I think we know a guy that would take a couple of those peated barrels and put an apple brandy in it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, okay. I can only imagine.
Yeah. Drew, anything else on Buzzard Roost or Cigar Rye before we?
Keep making it because I'm going to keep drinking it as much as I can. But no, I'm genuinely so excited for you, Jason. And I would echo what Kevin said. Just really cool to see somebody that operates their business in such an upstanding and exciting way be so successful so quickly. So, big fans over here, man.
I don't know that I have a whole lot to do with the success. It's the people that thank God they're all still drinking it.
So we're going to wrap up side A. We may get back into Buzzard Roost a little bit. I know that we'll still be drinking it as we get into side B. But before we get into talking about best front men and women in rock music, let's talk a little bit about Bourbons Bistro. You got the masked wonder, Mike the bartender up here. How long's Mike been with you, Jason?
It's hard to say. It seems like it's almost like The Shining. It's like he's always been there. I would say at least 8 years. I think it differs every time I ask him. I think it differs every time I ask him.
Wow. And this year you Icons of Whiskey Award for Bar of the Year. Tell us about that. What's involved with that?
Real excited about that. It was a surprise to us. We got Whiskey Magazine gave us a Bar of the Year for North America, which is a worldwide publication, and we were just delighted to have that and surprised. And I said, 17 years to be an overnight success.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So, anytime I have friends or family coming to town, whether they're whiskey people or not, I make sure that they get to go to Bourbons Bistro, because if they're whiskey people, they need to experience it for sure, because they know bourbon, and that's where a bourbon fan needs to be. They don't need to be there having to educate the bar staff on what bourbon is and what bourbon isn't, and you certainly don't have to do that at Bourbons Bistro. But even if you're not a whiskey person, the food there is outstanding. Jeremy does a terrific job as a chef there. I know he's always making some fantastic entrees, and can't say enough about, again, the kind of experiences that you have with family and friends. You make memories there, and when it's a little cool outside but not 20 degrees cold, you need to find a way at some point to have a group sitting out on that patio by the fire, and you're tossing rejected Louisville Slugger bats on the fire back there. Your party at dinner will never forget it.
And some of those times, if you're there a little too late, it can be some of those times that you'll never remember. That's maybe have a little bit too good of time, and of course we always promote having a driver at that point,
yes.
So Uber or Lyft or something like that. We promote safe travels for sure, but there are probably times that you had a great time. You really don't remember all of it. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I've been there a few times and been, one of the last 2 or 3 people in the place, but I've remembered them, thankfully. And Drew, I know you've had some good memories there. You've had some celebrations there yourself, right?
Most definitely. Yeah, that's kind of one of my special spots. So if there's something going on, especially with music, we like to go there. And I know, Kevin, when my first little EP came out, you and I and Cindy and Caitlin and Mark and his wife all went and got dinner there. And we toasted a lot in the restaurant and some in your parking lot. And, just lots of good memories there for sure. I would just say this too. I know we talked about Mike already, but one of my favorite games to play is on a Friday afternoon after work. Stop in to see Mike and say, surprise me, and just see what he pulls down and what he's going to tell me about it. So definitely, if you're in the area, if you're traveling in, go see Mike and ask him for something special. He's got something.
Yeah. So if you're coming to the Bluegrass State to hit the Bourbon Trail, Bourbons Bistro needs to be at the top of your list of places to visit. You can go to the distilleries and absolutely you'll want to do that. But Bourbons Bistro needs to be a part of your agenda. And so make it a point to get there. Who knows? You may see Drew and me there too, sipping on some Buzzard Roost at the bar with Mike and Jason. Who knows? But all right. So we're going to talk about the best front men or women. When I say front men, let's just say when I'm saying front man, I mean
front people,
front person. Okay. I don't send me nasty letters saying that I'm, misogynistic or anything like that, or hate women, because I don't. And, but the lead singer. All right. The person at the front of the band, because there's some
Glenn Miller, something like that. The band leader.
Yes, Glenn Miller. He was third on my list.
I love a band leader.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jason, when you're thinking, all right, who's the best front man in the business, who comes to mind for you?
Wow. And you know, Kevin, you sent me the agenda, and I thought about this, and
Mhm.
you know, my wife hates me because I don't have favorites of anything
Mhm.
because you know I like certain people for certain reasons. You know, the best front person to me, it could be 5 people. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
at least you know, and it just depends. I think at some point you have to narrow it, and I don't know that I just get maybe I think too deep into it, like you know, of what decade then now, or you know, I guess as we have the privilege of being old enough to
Mhm.
see some of these older people play. You know, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, that you know dances like he's got epilepsy, but just wonderful. You know, he's got these moves that you just don't know about.
Right.
And of course, you know, as a teen, David Lee Roth had to be, you know, just bad. You know, I'm watching these videos on MTV, and it's like, wow, you know, and MTV was, you know, I was going to be a baseball player up until, you know, whenever MTV came out. And then I was like watching these videos. I'm like, that's cool. You know, it's just like partying, chicks playing rock. It was like, yes. And I think David Lee Roth was like the head of that, you know. And it could go on. I mean, you know, when it gets into serious music, you know, Geddy Lee's the man for me. I mean, you know, if you want to talk music,
Right.
or you want to talk like party ass, you know, you got David Lee Roth, you got Van Halen.
Right.
And for another reason, like I said, you've got Mick Jagger.
Right.
I mean, and I don't even know if you would call him a front man, but, you know, you got to look at Carlos Santana. You know, I don't know enough about the different people that he had singing his songs or whatever, but it was always just Santana, you know. Steve Perry, you know, that's when you get into this almost more like ballad rock. You know, you gotta love, that's a whole different, that brings up a whole different set of feelings, you know, Journey than Van Halen does, and especially the Rush. It's all different feelings. And then when you really wanted to party, it's like David Coverdale with Whitesnake. You know, I'm a huge Whitesnake fan, like huge Whitesnake fan. So all these different people.
Okay, are you a Whitesnake fan or a Tawny Kitaen fan?
No, I was a Whitesnake way before Tawny Kitaen, and I mean, she was okay. You know, there was
a lot of, you know, you talk about MTV. A lot of reason that Whitesnake is popular is because of those videos, and you know, and she was, you know, outhouse crazy.
Yeah, she was a little crazy, but well, you know, I'm like, you know, love ain't no stranger, so I'm before that with Whitesnake.
Old school Whitesnake. Okay.
Yeah, I'm old school Whitesnake. So, you know, like I said, it's and for different reasons. I mean, it would have to almost be one of those brackets. You'd have 64 of these lead singers, male and female, to where you get, you know, and then you're talking about solo artists. You got to throw Barbara Streisand in there. You got to throw Bette Midler. Are they lead men? No, but
well, see,
their own deal.
And that's kind of the question. If you're a solo act, are you a front man,
right,
or woman, as the case
Nancy
may be?
Klein. I mean, you know, she's
Elvis. If we're going to say, okay, you're a solo act, then Elvis or Michael Jackson, they've got to be in the conversation.
Yep.
Right.
I guess when I was originally thinking about this, it was more the band, a band with the lead singer.
Sure.
Then
which is kind of who I named earlier.
Yeah.
But then you're going to break down into Ozzy, you know, who was in
Sabbath,
you know, Black Sabbath, and Ronnie James Dio,
yes,
who was in Rainbow and Black Sabbath and Dio.
Right.
which Ronnie James Dio was awesome. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me throw a couple other controversial ones, and I'll just ask you guys to weigh in on this. So, Prince of Prince and the Revolution and Jimi Hendrix of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, are they frontmen or are they solo acts? And I know we've got some solo acts in the conversation, but I know that's not kind of the focus of what we're doing.
You know, Robert Plant and Bono, which I'm looking at behind you, have the albums there.
Yeah,
which,
right.
You know, I can't even believe I haven't talked about those guys yet. You know?
Right.
Robert Plant with then he went solo with one of my favorite songs called Big Log.
Big Log, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful song. We may have talked about that before, but you know, Bono, I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
The dude for REM. I mean, I guess those are probably lead men. And then we got to leave the solo people out, I guess. I don't know.
I would probably leave the solo people out as well, because you're, by the nature of being a solo artist, you're already the spotlight. Okay, you're already there, and you know, then you can look at bands like Van Halen. Okay, who's the leader of that band?
Right, it was the Van Halens, obviously.
Right.
Because then Sammy came along, and they had a couple other in between there, but Sammy was great with them.
So Sammy or Diamond Dave?
Equally, I like them both equally. I mean, really. I mean, probably I was more influenced by David Lee Roth than Sammy Hagar because of maybe my age at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so Sammy's rocks and shit. I listened to him when he was solo and he was the leader of his own band.
Right.
The great song, She's on Fire. I mean, wonderful. You know, he had great album before he ever went to Van Halen. Couple albums.
Yeah. Drew?
Oh, man.
Sammy or David Lee Roth?
I got to go David Lee Roth for me. Was not a huge Van Hagar fan, but that also could just be biased from what my dad listened to, you know, growing up or whatever. That we've had our whole episode on Van Halen, so you can refer to that for my full opinion.
Yeah, and Sammy Hagar had a pretty full career before he got into Van Halen. You know, his solo work as well as being lead singer for Montrose, and to me, if we're talking about the front man, it's David Lee Roth. If we're talking about who's the better musician or vocalist, it's Sammy Hagar. So because the personality that David Lee Roth brought to it was such a neat counterbalance to the extraordinary musical talent from Eddie Van Halen. And ultimately that's what, you know, one of the contributing factors to the breaking up of that band. But I could see how you could go either way, depending on what your preference is or depending on what your mood is that day.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of an interesting conversation too. You know, Jason, you brought this up earlier. Obviously the Van Halens were the leader of Van Halen, but there's a couple of these other bands out there like that. I think of Guns N' Roses with Axl Rose and Slash. You know, Motley Crue. Who the hell knows who sings for Motley Crue? It's Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee's band, right? But then you get into some of these modern people, Derek and Susan from the Tedeschi Trucks band, or you know, the folks from Fleetwood Mac. There's like 3 front people for them, or you know, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers has a couple of front people in it. So I think that's a really interesting conversation too when you discuss who the front man is, because there's some bands that are better known for their backing musicians than there are the lead singers. So I know, Kevin, you were focused on lead singers, and I think we should probably steer the conversation that way. I just think it's interesting when a band is known more by a backing musician than the lead singer.
Well, you know, Jason mentioned Geddy Lee. Okay, Geddy Lee was the bassist and the lead vocalist for Rush. But if you ask Rush fans who the leader of that band was, they'd say Neil Peart. Right?
Yep.
But
Agreed.
you know, that's just the unique nature of that band. Most are not that way. And Drew, you mentioned Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Whether you consider her, I don't think you would consider her the leader of that band by any means.
Probably not.
But was she the most prominent lead singer? Prominent figure. Yeah.
Well, Christine McVie, they all sang.
Right.
And she sang a lot of their hits. But if you go back and look at it, I mean, Christine McVie sang a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, and that's one of those things where reputation and contribution are probably two different factors that lead into that. So are you known as the front, or did you contribute the most to the public persona of the band? And I think that's an interesting conversation to get into as well.
Steve Perry is a good example because it was Neil Sean's band. I mean, Neil Sean put it together,
right?
So now obviously Steve's gone, and I think there's its journey is journey,
right? And
but Journey was Steve Perry, and thus when they hired Arlo or whatever, now he sounds like Steve Perry,
right?
So to me, Journey was Steve Perry, even though the guitar for Neil Sean was phenomenal. It's phenomenal work. Even though he's the leader of the band, that was their sound. That's almost like if you even get into the country, that Rascal Flatts is not a band without their front guy. They wouldn't ever be a band without his sound. And I remember going to their show, and they actually asked him to leave the stage, the two guys that started the band, and they're like playing some songs, and nobody gave a shit. And it's like, then they bring him back out, and it's like, now let's get it on, So, I mean, and there's that whole country genre too, as well.
Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
How many bands have survived a change in lead singer? We talked about Black Sabbath. We've talked about Van Halen. One we haven't talked about, AC/DC.
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll ask the same question. Bon Scott, Brian Johnson.
That's an easy one for me. And again, I could be biased, but I think it's Bon Scott. It's just, he is iconic vocally. And I think their best work happened when he was in the band. That's, again, my own personal opinion, but yeah, I think that original lineup was the one for me.
I would think Bon Scott as well.
I think people tend to say Bon Scott, but then, their most successful album was Back in Black, which was Brian Johnson.
Which was what, 76? 77?
Hang on, let me look that one up.
So that's Googleable.
Yeah.
I don't want to change the topic of conversation, so I'll stall here until you get there. But there is a one-of-one frontman that nobody's brought up yet, and I want to get y'all's opinions on that whenever you find the year on Back in Black.
Okay, Back in Black was 1980.
Really? I thought it was earlier than that.
I thought it was too, but that's what. Hang on a second. Hang on. Yeah, 1980. And I think I know where you're going, Drew. So go ahead.
Yep. When I think of front man, women, person, lead singer, whatever, Freddie Mercury is the greatest of all time, and there's just no one did what he did. You think about Live Aid and how great a performance that was at Wembley, but then you have all these other videos of shows that they played, and his energy was the same no matter where he was. Just an incredible talent, could sing anyone under a table, and had this magnetic charisma about him that was just
presence.
I don't think anyone's done it.
Yeah.
What's that again? Sorry.
Quite the presence.
Yes, definitely.
he had the voice and he had the personality. He had the charisma. He had that, as you said, Jason, presence.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can find somebody that, fits that better than he did. But I'll throw out Jim Morrison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a very brief but bright career. Jim Morrison's in the 27 Club, unfortunately.
As my wife mentioned, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
Which I think, Morrison's career was a little bit shorter, I guess, or somewhat short, I guess. I mean,
their first album was 68, I think.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
I mean, Morrison certainly had that going for him.
I know you guys are both fans of music history, so while you're looking that up, if you get a chance to listen, maybe Jason, while you're traveling this next year, there's a fantastic podcast called The 27 Club, and it kind of goes through Amy Winehouse and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, but the story of Janis Joplin, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, and the Dead all being on tour together, and some of the shenanigans that ensued backstage were just endlessly riveting. So we highly recommend checking that out.
I'm sure I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. And you mentioned, rightly so, you mentioned Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, but, Dave Grohl.
Yeah, Dave
Foo
Grohl.
Fighters. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, is he the leader, the lead man, or drummer? I mean, who was the lead man on the Eagles? Nobody. Just a great band.
Right.
Nobody.
Right. No,
all had breakout albums and all that.
Yeah. The band the same way. There was no. Well, that's the lead guy.
Right.
And that either sometimes that depending on the personalities that contributes to the band's longevity, and sometimes it just creates tension. And I think we saw both of that in the Eagles. Another one we haven't mentioned is Steven Tyler and Aerosmith.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
How do you miss that?
Yeah. I mean, how long have those guys been together?
Yeah.
40 years, 50 years almost. Because they came out in the mid to late 70s, right?
They're almost, Kevin, with this one, there almost has to be divisions.
Right.
like Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who Boston's lead man was, or at least I don't.
Right.
Great band.
Because it was a great band, and that was it.
Great band. But then you go into, got the Led Zeppelin, but then you kind of move on to the U2s and Van Halen's and Nirvana's and
Right.
I mean, I don't even think Metallica really has a lead man to me. It's just a band to me. I mean, we know all the players.
Right.
The people that stick out, the lead people that stick out. I think, like I said, Bono, you've got to bring up. Got Robert Plant. I mean, it's iconic, and Greg Allman. I mean, the Allman Brothers. But then
you also had Dwayne Allman in there too.
Right, Dwayne was in there as well.
So, but yeah, Greg. I don't know. Another one we haven't mentioned yet is Roger Daltrey, The Who.
Oh. See, it's divisions. We've got years and decades and divisions.
But see, here's the thing with both The Who and Led Zeppelin. You've got a charismatic lead singer with a very distinctive voice. But then you also have the guitarist that is driving the creativity in that band, right. Pete Townsend in The Who.
And then both of the drummers were huge. I mean, you talk about Keith Moon and John Bonham.
Okay. If you're wanting to talk about the complete lineup for a band, The Who, it's tough to beat The Who and Led Zeppelin. Okay, right. There's 1A, 1B there because you could argue that any of the four of them in their respective roles, if you're reading the liner notes of the album and it's saying vocalist, guitarist, bass, drums, you're going to have an argument that for the four in The Who and the four in Led Zeppelin, that they're the best that there is in their spot, in their role. But in talking about the frontmen, you've got Daltrey and Plant, but where does Pete Townsend was as upfront as Roger Daltrey was, right. And as
Jimmy Page was as well.
Right, exactly.
U2 and Guns N' Roses are probably in that conversation. Obviously not for the total lineup, but for the lead singer and lead guitarist for sure.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting. I want to ask you guys. We've talked a lot about things that we love. What frontmen do you hate?
Oh, geez.
Who sucks? Because I've got a couple.
Wow. I don't know.
I was trying to be positive to start the year, Drew. And now you're calling out my dark side.
I know. It's my job on here. I got to be the sarcastic one.
We're in trouble then.
I'll throw out one, and then I've got a second one to follow it up. I'll see what you guys think. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. And my disdain for this band has been well documented on this show. But does anyone know what the hell he's talking about? Or he can't enunciate. He can't really sing. It's just it's dismal. So, and that's Drew speaking for Drew, not Drew speaking for Bourbon Turntable or Jason Brauner. But that is a front man that I would just.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I was a huge Pearl Jam fan when they came out. Huge fan.
Sure.
Not going to deny it. Still one of my karaoke go-tos is Black. Love it. And I get what you're saying a little bit about Eddie Vedder. What's he saying? And what is he? But I went to see them, and they were very young, probably on their first tour. And I'm like, I walked away, and I was disappointed. And I'm like, those right now are studio musicians. Like they had to do each track like 48 times because, they're not like the Eagles or whatever. You walk in, you do it and you're done. They were studio musicians when they first hit the concert, the touring thing, because I was completely disappointed. Loved the album, but was completely disappointed with them live and just thought it was completely horrible. So I get that. And I did turn kind of they weren't obviously my shining star at that point. Sure. And I was a little bit let down. Obviously, I was let down. But
I saw them at Bourbon and Beyond this past year, and I'm not sure that their live presence has gotten any better. Now, I'll admit, I went into it, wanting to be a hater, but Kevin, what about you? Anybody on your naughty list, so to speak?
Scott Stapp of Creed.
That's a meme at this point,
It kind of is, isn't it? That's low hanging fruit. But I
actually did he? No, that was it Days of the New? Or it was Days of the New. I was thinking of. And I was thinking of Creed because they sound a little bit alike some of the Days of the New stuff. I don't know. I had a buddy of mine played guitar for them for a while. Went on tour with them for Days of the New. And the lead singer was kind of the same from what I don't know about Scott Stapp or whatever. It seemed really crazy, but I was into Creed for a little bit. I really was. I'll admit it.
So we're just insulting Jason's favorite musicians.
And I'm going to say it out in public right now. I'm going to say it in public.
Right.
There's a bunch of bad talk about Nickelback, and I don't care. I will bring it.
Yeah.
Bring the Nickelback. I like it. I like jamming to it. I'm not a closet Nickelback lover. I'm going to be out in front. I'm coming out today.
All right.
On the show.
All right. Jason's coming out of the closet with his love for Nickelback. Okay.
Now, it's not a huge love, but it's like they don't deserve as much hate as they get, I don't think.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it kind of becomes they're trendy to hate on.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Like now a lot of people that are, you know, under the under 30, under 35 crowd, it's trendy to not like you too, to hate you too.
How do you do that?
It's just I don't know if it was the whole thing 10 years ago or whatever it was when they released a new album and Apple put it on everybody's phone for free, and you know people got irate about that. For hey, you got a free album, okay? Quit your whining. Now I'll tell you another one that I don't like is John Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Jason's going home. We're just here to piss him off. We gassed him up on side A, and now we're just pissing him off.
I'm just not a big Bon Jovi fan.
Oh my God.
I think he's a pretty boy, but yeah, that's me.
I'm gonna have to step off camera for a minute.
Are you cheering up over
Cheering
Bon
up a little
Jovi?
bit over here, man.
We're gonna test y'all's friendship tonight.
Well,
Kevin's gonna lose a little bit of respect for me today.
let's just dig that hole a little deeper then. If we're talking like solo acts that or like
oh no, it's the band.
Okay, if we're Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, I don't care for Bruce Springsteen.
And so I was never ever a fan of Bruce. Ever. Everybody loved it. He played for 4 hours. He's boy.
Right.
Like, okay, whatever. I'm not a huge fan.
Sure.
Right.
I appreciate what he does.
Right.
Okay. Was never a big fan.
Right.
Yeah.
But I really liked Bon Jovi. There was right in there with the White Snake and all that. It would just play repeatedly on my stereos. Just it's easy rock and 80s music.
It absolutely is, and I don't know. There's just something about.
And Richie Sambora I like Richie Sambora.
Got no problem with him.
Sure.
I'm just not a big John Bon Jovi fan.
He's got no beef with Richie Sambora.
No beef with Richie. No beef with Richie.
Mild redemption. Yeah.
A lot of their songs, they're catchy. They got good hooks and riffs.
That is my number one karaoke song. I just have to tell you that. Like I'm known as kind of Bon Jovi in some of these karaoke circles.
Yeah. I see. I thought you were a Supertramp guy on karaoke.
I think we've had this conversation before.
Well, I see a trip to a karaoke bar in our future.
Yeah,
let's do that. Let's
1,000%.
Absolutely do that.
And I know a lot of times people say, "Hey, let's do this, let's do that." We need to get a little group together.
I'll do it.
Yeah. And we just need to make that happen. So,
Patrick's is close, and they do it every Friday, Saturday.
Right? Oh, do they? All right. Well,
yeah, right here off the Frankfurt Avenue.
We'll have dinner one night.
I may change I personally might change your mind about Bon Jovi.
Well, if I hear Jason Brauner as John Bon Jovi singing Bon Jovi. Yeah, maybe so. You may
just change your whole mind about it.
You're telling the good news of Bon Jovi. You're a Bon Jovi evangelist. So we'll see what happens with that.
We really This almost feels like Dr. Phil here on the show.
Well,
You guys have got me to admit to Nickelback and Bon Jovi.
just let it
Creed.
out, Jason. Just let it
Yeah.
cleanse yourself to start
Need to-
2023,
I
right?
need to cleanse my soul.
That's good. Anybody else on y'all's list of ones you're not fond of? I've got one more, but I want to hear from you guys.
I almost hate to hear it.
Jason likes it. Jason likes everybody, so be very careful.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't bring up Gene Simmons then. But no, I'm kidding. It's a bit. I'm just doing a bit. No.
But Paul Stanley was the lead guy, see? So we're talking about
I
and that
No,
old
no.
man.
The other one I was going to bring up was Josh Kiska from Greta Van Fleet. He's doing his best B- impersonation of Robert Plant, and I am not into it. I don't get that band. I don't understand why people don't just listen to Led Zeppelin. And he's not. He wants to be Robert Plant so bad, and I can't get into it. So I don't want to be a hater. I know they're young guys bringing an older style of music back, and a lot of people appreciate it. I know they put on a great stage show, but I just can't get into Josh Kiska.
I didn't know who you were talking about. I know who Greta Van Fleet is, but other than that, that's where it stops.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cool. You know that it's weird that they all sound like Led Zeppelin songs, but they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that he, I don't really look. I'm not making any attempt to sound like Robert Plant. We're not trying to sound like Led Zeppelin. I don't even know if we listen to Led Zeppelin.
I'm calling BS on that.
It's like some of these whiskey brands that have these phony BS stories, and die with a lie. That's what these guys are doing. I don't have a lot of use for it. When I first heard it, I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And then, but it is just such a mimic of Led Zeppelin, and a faded copy of Led Zeppelin.
It's the great value brand Led Zeppelin.
Right.
It's your Walmart brand version.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, own it. Say, yeah, we love Led Zeppelin, and let that kind of inspire.
Big influence. Big influence in our lives or something.
Right. But quit trying to sound exactly like Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any other topics or wanted to bring anything else in. I was curious to hear of modern bands. Who do you guys think is the best lead or front person in that category? I have a few, but I'm curious on y'all's.
I don't know. That's a tougher. I think that's a bit tougher. I think you could.
What's a modern band? I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Currently touring and releasing music. We've talked a lot about legacy acts, but I think there's some good people that are currently recording and touring that are going to become known as front people in some of these bands.
I need some examples.
Let me give you a couple of mine, and I'll tell you. And this is more reflective of my personal style of music. Brittany Howard from the band Alabama Shakes. It's a great band, and their voice is just so powerful and distinctive. It's one of those things that I think makes the band. Haley Williams of Paramore is another one that can just sing anybody under the table. And then Brendan Urie of Panic at the Disco. I'm admittedly not a huge Panic at the Disco fan. It's a little bit pop punky for me, but I don't know if there is a better male singer currently recording and touring as Brendan Urie. He can cover Stevie Wonder songs. He covers quite a few Queen songs, and he can sing. He's got the range. He's got the charisma to be an iconic frontman. And then the other one I was going to bring up was Susan Tedeschi, who is just, there's arguments that Derek Trucks is the leader of that band, and I think that's definitely fair. It's almost like having two lead singers with the way that he plays guitar and the way that she sings. but she's another one that I think is just iconic as a singer. So that would be some examples of modern bands that I think have great front people in them.
I think I've seen Cage the Elephant live, and good Kentucky boys out of Bowling Green. Matt Schultz is the lead vocalist there. He's the front guy there, and he lives that part really well. It's been a while since they've put anything new out, so hopefully we'll see something from them again soon. I think you can look at you've got guys like Nathaniel Rateliff, and the Night Sweats. Marcus King is now just kind of a solo thing. Wolfgang Van Halen, I mean, he's got a band, but it's mostly him.
It's him.
But I think that he doesn't necessarily have that personality for it, but he certainly has a talent for it.
Yeah.
So
and this is another one. Their future may be a little bit cloudy at the moment, but Dave Grohl might be one of the best modern frontmen that exists, both for his creative work, his singing, his guitar playing. I mean, that's his band. The Foo Fighters. So.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, if you think about that and kind of bring in, it's a little bit country, maybe not. Zach Brown.
Yes. Yeah.
Zach Brown, and I hear they do all kinds of crazy, cool things. They bring a big trailer. I think they do a lot of cooking on the road as well. They do a lot of cooking. They have a good time. But I love Zach Brown.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and that whole band is incredibly talented, both instrumentally and vocally. If you listen to their music, either on recorded or in concert, their vocals, man, they are tight. And Zach Brown is I've seen them a couple times, and yeah, he plays the lead man really well.
Yeah. I love Chris Stapleton, but he falls in that leader of his own band, even though he's played some other stuff and been a writer and whatever forever. But
the Steel Drivers records that he sang on were incredible. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Evan Felker of Turnpike Troubadours is another one I throw into that conversation, kind of the country vein.
Yep.
They're Oklahoma boys, so I'm a little bit biased towards them, but it's probably the best band in country music right now, and his voice is incredible, and he writes all their material and stuff. So that's another good one. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for entertaining that rabbit trail. I was just curious if you guys had any kind of modern folks.
I was thinking about the more current era, and it's just, to me, it feels different. And maybe it's just because time is you've got the benefit of looking at things through time, and you can see what the legacy of Freddie Mercury or Robert Plant or Roger Daltrey or Mick Jagger and how that they've stood that test of time. Right.
Absolutely.
And that may be part of it. And so it may not be fair to look at, okay, well, who's doing this right now? Active band, because you don't have that. You don't have that time to judge it through.
Sure. I think there's also a pretty substantial decrease in bands. There's not that many people that aren't solo acts first that have a backing band or a touring band. It's kind of decreased in kind of the overall number of true bands that are out there. So, yeah, cool.
Okay. All right, Jason, any final thoughts on favorite frontman?
No, I mean, like I said, I think it was a great topic that maybe, there should be some kind of 64 people on there, some brackets and somehow, and I never do a bracket, and I kind of don't, whatever. But I think that there's a lot of pluses and minuses to what's going on and who's the best front man. But I think at the end of the day, when you think of a front man, to me, it's going to be David Lee Roth. Like the first videos, he's bouncing around, and I saw him the other day, and he looked, horrible. Like I saw him on some kind of interview. It was like terrible. I was like, so maybe it's stating my age, and maybe the days of the front man are gone. Maybe there is no. Maybe it's more of an inclusive thing with the bands and whatever. But he was, he's out there. He's got his videos. He's got these swords. He's doing all these karate moves and bouncing around. And I mean, it was almost like a circus or a show, in itself.
Yeah. So Drew, Jason said when he thinks of front man, David Lee Roth is what pops in his head. So when you think front man, who is it? I think
it's Freddie Mercury for me. Just for the charisma and the vocal range and just I would say generational or even century talent. I don't know that we've had anybody comparable, to him.
It's tough not to think Freddie Mercury, and I certainly see David Lee Roth as well. I guess just to throw one other name out there would be Robert Plant. I think you put those three guys together, that would be pretty cool. Just as far as looking at and studying them, and probably got to throw Jagger in there too.
Jagger's got to be.
So if that's your Mount Rushmore of front men,
good Mount Rushmore.
That's a solid Mount Rushmore right there
for sure.
That's a solid Mount. So Mount Rushmore front men on Mount Bourbon Turntable. We've got Freddie Mercury, David Lee Roth.
You should have somebody draw that up for sure.
Yeah. That
if I could draw, I would have given it to you as a gift, but I can't draw.
Well, we'll see if we can't find somebody who can do that, or find some way to make that happen. But I think that's a solid 4. It's as solid as you're going to get, and I think we've talked about a lot of really, really good ones, and I think everybody's would have their own opinion. And if you're listening or watching the show and you've got your thoughts on any of the ones that we've named, or maybe you're thinking
we left out,
you forgot to say
Debbie
Harry of Blondie, for example.
Awesome.
Joan
Jett. Yes. Well, yeah. So we could do this all night, but we won't.
Joan Jett was a tough front man.
Yeah. Well, Chrissy Hine of the Pretenders. All right. There's another one.
Oh, that's good.
So all good stuff, all fun stuff. So let us know if you've got one that you really like, or one that we named that you think we didn't give enough credit to, or maybe you love Scott Stapp and you want to send me hate mail, or you love John Bon Jovi and you.
I was there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send some kind of some masked email to you, even though I don't know how that works. But, thank you, Dr. Rose, for pulling that out of me.
Well, I'm sure you feel better, like a weight's been lifted, and we'll have to find we'll have to set our karaoke date, and when we do, it's on. I'm telling you. It'll be something else. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we're wrapping things up here, and as we do, Drew, tell us what we're doing next week on the show.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about great blends of bourbon, as well as super groups. So we're going to be talking some Highwaymen and them Crooked Vultures and like 50 others that we love.
Yeah.
So
we got into a lot there too. So that'll be a fun one. And even some of the same names that we talked about this week, will come up next week too. So Jason, tell everybody where folks can find you on social media.
I'm currently on Instagram as the Bluegrass Bourbon Baron, and that's kind of all I do. But we have Bourbons Bistros out there on all the platforms, as well as Buzzard Roost is out there on all the platforms.
Yeah.
So check us out. Actually, on Instagram, I am about 9 people away from 1,000 followers. So,
all right. So if you're listening to the show and you don't follow Jason on Instagram, do that right now. And
Bluegrass Bourbon Baron on Instagram.
Yeah, you changed your name. What's up with that? You're listening to marketing people, aren't you?
Yeah, the board of directors thought that I should change my name.
Yeah.
They weren't it didn't seem correct, but whatever.
Well,
everybody knows what I do and who I am. So
yeah. You'll always be Bourbon Redneck to me.
Thank you.
Drew, where can folks find you?
Yeah, I'm primarily on Instagram as well at drew.crawley63. You can follow along there to find, all kinds of music stuff. I'd also appreciate it if you'd follow along on Spotify or Apple, Amazon, wherever you happen to listen to music. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming out this next year with music. Mm-hmm. And I'll go ahead and toss this out there. My band, the Wild Boys, has got a lot of dates coming up, including one here in Louisville. I'll just toss this out there for St. Patrick's Day at the O'Shea's downtown. So if you're looking to make some bad decisions and listen to some rock and country music, make some plans to be here in town for St. Patrick's Day with the Wild Boys at O'Shea's.
And you've got some dates in mid-January as well.
Got a lot of them. Yeah, got a lot. So January 7th will be actually O'Shea's in the Highlands with the Wild Boys. Everybody will be in town. January 20th and 21st, we've got dates here in town. Those will be solo gigs, but I'll be bringing my friends from 47 Flood, Tangled Minds, a couple of other local bands to sit in on some sets. We'll be at the Golden Nugget. We'll be at O'Shea's. We'll be at Frankfurt Avenue Liquors. We're everywhere. So follow that Instagram. You're going to figure it out.
Yep. Bourbon Turntable, we are on YouTube. So if you're watching the show, you want to watch the show, that's where you can do it. And hit that subscribe button there. If you just like to listen to the show, well, you're missing out on seeing, look at these good-looking guys. Yeah. But if you prefer your shows in podcast form, find us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we encourage you to post what you're drinking and what you're listening to, and so everybody can follow along with what you like, and maybe you'll cue somebody into something new. So
hey, Kevin, just to mention, I've got a studio I just set up. We moved. And I got a little garage out there. I set up a studio out back. So Drew and Kevin, we maybe do a show over there, put some music to what we're doing.
I love it.
We can do that. Absolutely, we can do that.
I've got the PA, I got the drum kit, PA, bass, whatever we need.
We can end our night after Patrick's and the Kiko's back at your place and figure it out.
No, Kiko, we'll just go straight to the studio.
I love it. Yeah, maybe we can do that in the Facebook group. Have a little Bourbon Turntable meetup and all embarrass ourselves and drink a little Buzzard Roost together.
Oh, yeah,
that sounds good. If I was on Facebook, we would, but
that's all right.
You know where to find me. You know where to find me.
Yeah,
awesome.
Very cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, on behalf of Jason and Drew and myself, thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Be sure to go out and find you some Buzzard Roost. And stop by Bourbons Bistro when you're in town. And until next time, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Turn it up.
How did we not say Ronnie Van Zant? What the heck is wrong with us? All right. Part 2 of this. we're already working on part 2 of this show. Hey, good night, everybody.
Good night.